Welcome back to Edzi, your personal AI tutor. Today, Gaurav and Swati are revising Class 10 English for CBSE Class 10 with Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom from First Flight. Keep a notebook nearby if you have one, but passive listening is also perfectly fine. A student from Pune, Arav, once said he understood the chapter only after connecting Mandela's personal freedom with everyone's freedom. We will make that connection, explore the inauguration, speech, courage, sacrifice, vocabulary, grammar, questions, and exam tips calmly.
That is a comforting way to begin, because this chapter can seem full of historical details. But its central question is very human. What does it mean to be truly free? We will not merely retell the passage. I will keep asking you to predict, compare, and explain. Take a second to think. If one person becomes free while others remain oppressed, can we call that complete freedom? Keep your answer in mind as we move through Mandela's memories.
Our learning map is simple. First, we will understand apartheid and the inauguration. Then, we will examine Mandela's speech, the contrast between the old and new systems, the sacrifices of thousands, and his meaning of courage. After that, we will follow his changing idea of freedom, revise important words and language patterns, and practice answers to the chapter's comprehension questions. By the end, you should be able to explain the chapter's ideas, not just reproduce a summary.
Let us start with the word apartheid. It refers to a political system that separates people according to race. In this chapter, apartheid is the system Mandela and the African National Congress fought throughout their lives. Mandela spent 30 years in prison, and democratic elections were finally held in South Africa in 1994. The inauguration therefore represents much more than a formal ceremony. It represents the beginning of a new democratic, non racial government.
Exam point: never describe apartheid vaguely as ordinary disagreement between communities. The source clearly presents it as racial separation and domination. Mandela and the African National Congress opposed a system in which people were denied equality because of the color of their skin. If a question asks why the inauguration was historic, connect three ideas: the end of more than 3 centuries of white rule, the first democratic elections, and Mandela becoming South Africa's first black president.
Now test yourself. Which country among the three mentioned in the chapter had apartheid until very recently? The United States of America, South Africa, or Australia? Do not answer too quickly. The correct answer is South Africa. More importantly, ask why the chapter begins with this background. Without understanding apartheid, the joy of the inauguration and Mandela's promise that oppression must never return would lose their full meaning.
The chapter is an extract from Mandela's autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom. That title itself suggests a long, difficult movement towards liberty. The passage focuses on one historic day, but Mandela keeps looking backwards at suffering and forwards towards responsibility. This movement through time is important. The inauguration is not presented as a sudden gift. It is shown as the result of a long collective struggle.
I want to add one subtle point. A student is say Mandela became president, so the struggle was over. Would you accept that answer? Not completely. Political emancipation had been achieved, but Mandela still spoke about poverty, depression, suffering, gender discrimination, and other forms of discrimination. Political freedom was a major victory, but true liberty also required human dignity and social justice.
The 10th of May dawned bright and clear. Mandela had been surrounded closely by dignitaries and world leaders who came to pay their respects before the inauguration. He describes the gathering as the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Notice how the setting carries historical meaning.
Exactly. For decades, the Union buildings had been the seat of white supremacy. Now, the same place became the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations. The contrast is powerful because the building has not changed its location, but its political meaning has changed completely. It once represented racial superiority. Now it represents the installation of a democratic, non racial government.
Let us clarify rainbow gathering. It means a beautiful coming together of various peoples compared with the different colors of a rainbow. The phrase highlights diversity joined unity. It does not erase differences, instead, it presents those differences as part of a shared national occasion. In an answer, use the keywords different colors, different nations, unity, and a new non racial government.
The word amphitheater may also be tested through vocabulary. It means a building without a roof, with many rows of seats rising in steps, like structures associated with ancient Greece and Rome. The ceremonies took place in the sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union buildings in Pretoria. If the question asks where the ceremonies took place, give the complete answer rather than writing only Pretoria.
Mandela was accompanied by his daughter Zenani on that autumn day. On podium, Mr. de Klerk was first sworn in as second deputy president, and Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. Then Mandela took his turn. He pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote himself to the well-being of the republic and its people.
Why is that pledge significant? Because the new leader defines power as responsibility. He does not focus on personal victory or revenge. He promises obedience to the constitution and service to the people. When an exam asks what Mandela pledged, include both paths: upholding the constitution and working for the well being of the republic and its people.
Here is a quick check. Who accompanied Mandela to the ceremony and who were the two deputy presidents mentioned before his own swearing in? The names are Zenani, Mr. de Klerk as second deputy president, and Thabo Mbeki as first deputy president. These details matter only when they support the larger point. The ceremony formally introduced a new democratic leadership.
Mandela then speaks to the assembled guests and the watching world. He says that their presence gives glory and hope to newborn liberty. He also says that from the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, a society must be born of which all humanity will be proud. The human disaster refers to the long experience of apartheid, oppression, and racial domination.
The phrase newborn liberty presents freedom as something newly born and therefore precious, hopeful, and needing care. Mandela does not treat liberty as merely a political label. He imagines a society based on justice, peace, and human dignity. This is why the speech moves from celebration to a pledge for the future. The ceremony marks an achievement, but it also creates an obligation.
Mandela calls the victory a common victory for justice, peace, and human dignity. Why common? Because the achievement was not created by one individual alone. International guests joined the people of South Africa, and countless people had contributed to the struggle. A strong answer should show that the victory belongs to the nation and to all those who worked, suffered, and sacrificed for freedom.
The international leaders were thanked for coming to take possession with the people of South Africa of a common victory. Their presence gave the occasion international recognition. It also showed that South Africa was no longer isolated as it had been because of apartheid. The former outlaws were now hosts to nations from around the world. That reversal makes the moment especially powerful.
Let us look at political emancipation. Emancipation means freedom from restriction. Political emancipation means that the people had achieved freedom from the political system that had denied their rights. However, Mandela immediately extends the meaning of liberation. He pledges to free people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender discrimination, and other discrimination.
This is a commonly tested distinction. Political emancipation is not the final destination in the chapter. Mandela sees freedom as incomplete if people remain trapped in poverty, deprivation, or discrimination. Therefore, when explaining true liberty, do not write only freedom from foreign or racial rule. Add freedom from social and economic suffering, along with equality, dignity, justice, and peace.
Mandela's repeated promise that the land must never again experience the oppression of one person by another gives the speech moral force. The repetition of never makes the promise emphatic. The closing image that the sun shall never set on such a glorious human achievement suggests lasting importance and hope. Finally, the call to let freedom reign expresses his broad vision of liberty for everyone.
Quick recall. What ideals does Mandela set out for the future of South Africa? Your answer should include justice, peace, human dignity, equality, freedom, and liberation from poverty and discrimination. Do not treat these as disconnected words. Together, they describe a humane society in which all people can live with rights and self-respect.
After the speech, the chapter describes a spectacular display of South African jets, helicopters, and troop carriers flying in perfect formation over the Union buildings. Mandela says it was not only a display of precision and military force, it was also a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy and to a government freely and fairly elected.
The change in the general's attitude is striking. Only moments before, the highest generals of the defense force and police saluted Mandela and pledged loyalty. Yet not many years earlier, they would not have saluted him, they would have arrested him. This contrast shows the political transformation from oppression to democracy more vividly than a simple statement of change could do.
A chevron of Impala jets then left a smoke trail in the black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. A chevron is a pattern shaped like the letter V. The image combines military precision with the colors of a new national identity. The military is no longer shown as serving racial domination. It is shown as loyal to democracy.
The day was also symbolized by the playing of two national anthems. White people sang Nkosi Sikeleleli Africa, while black people sang Die Stem, the old anthem of the Republic. Neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem once despised by the other group, but Mandela says they would soon know the words by heart. The moment therefore represents mutual acceptance and the beginning of shared nationhood.
Why were two anthems sung? Because both communities had their own historical association with an anthem, and the ceremony brought them together. The detail is not decorative. It shows that the new nation must recognize different paths while moving towards unity. A useful exam phrase is shared national identity through acceptance of both communities.
Mandela says he was overwhelmed with the sense of history. This means he felt deeply emotional while remembering and understanding the past events that had led to the inauguration. He looks back to the first decade of the 20th century, when white-skinned people created a system of racial domination against dark-skinned people of their own land.
Mandela describes that earlier structure as one of the harshest and most inhumane societies the world had known. Then he contrasts it with the final decade of the 20th century, when the system had been overturned forever and replaced by one recognizing the rights and freedoms of all people, regardless of skin color. The time contrast is central to the chapter's structure.
We are entering the first major recap. The Union buildings changed from a seat of white supremacy into a rainbow gathering. The military changed from an instrument that could arrest Mandela into a force pledging loyalty to democracy. Separate anthems became part of a shared ceremony. Finally, racial domination was replaced by a government recognizing rights and freedoms for all.
Mandela is careful not to present himself as the sole hero. He says the historic day came about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of his people. Their suffering and courage could never be counted or repaid. And he calls himself the sum of the African patriots who had gone before him. He means that his achievement carries their contributions, values, and sacrifices within it.
He feels pain because he cannot thank those patriots or allow them to see what their sacrifices had achieved. This makes the celebration emotionally complex. There is joy at freedom, but also remembrance and grief. The chapter teaches us that historical progress is often built by people whose names and personal stories may not be fully known.
The source names Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Chief Luthuli, Yusuf Dadoo, Bram Fisher, and Robert Sobukwe as examples of prominent figures in the struggle against apartheid. Mandela says oppression produced people of extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity. The important idea is not to memorize a disconnected list. Understand that a collective movement, supported by many patriots, made the achievement possible.
Mandela acknowledges that apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in his country and among his people. Recovery could take many years or even generations. This prevents the reader from seeing the inauguration as a magical erasure of the past. Democracy begins healing, but the effects of oppression remain and require continuing effort.
This is a good moment to use Etsy for active recall. After this mini recap, ask an exact doubt such as, why does Mandela call himself the sum of earlier patriots? Then try to answer in three linked points: collective sacrifice, inherited courage, and a victory larger than one individual. The point is to make your mind retrieve the idea rather than simply recognize it while listening.
Mandela also says that his country is rich in minerals and gems, but its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. This is a metaphorical comparison. He values human courage, wisdom, generosity, and character above material resources. In a theme based answer, this line supports the idea that people are the true strength of a nation.
From his comrades in the struggle, Mandela learned the meaning of courage. He had seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. He had also seen people face attacks and torture without breaking. Their strength and resilience defied imagination. Resilience means the ability to deal with hardship and recover from its effects.
Now we reach one of the most important statements in the chapter. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. This means a courageous person may feel afraid. The difference is that the person conquers fear instead of allowing fear to control their actions. You do not need to copy the statement word for word. In your notebook, write the idea in clear English. Bravery means overcoming fear, not never experiencing it.
Let me challenge a common misunderstanding. If a student writes, Mandela says brave people never feel fear, that reverses his meaning. He specifically distinguishes the brave person from someone who does not feel afraid. The brave person is the one who conquers fear. Consider which word in your answer will show the relationship between fear and courage. The best word is triumph or overcoming.
Mandela then discusses hatred. He says that no one is born hating another person because of skin color, background, or religion. People must learn to hate. If hatred can be learned, people can also be taught to love. He believes love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. This idea connects personal morality with the larger fight against discrimination.
Even during the grim times in prison, Mandela noticed a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps only for a second. That small sign of goodness reassured him and helped him continue a hope. The phrase glimmer of humanity means a brief sign of human feeling, kindness, pity, justice, or goodness. It shows that goodness may be hidden, but is not destroyed.
The image of goodness as a flame is memorable. A flame can be hidden, but Mandela says it can never be extinguished. This is figurative language expressing his faith in human goodness. Do not claim that the chapter gives a detailed personal story about one particular guard. It gives only the brief observation of humanity. Keep your explanation close to that point.
Quick quiz. According to Mandela, which is natural, love or hatred? The answer is love. Hatred has to be learned, while love comes more naturally to the human heart. And what helps a person continue through the darkest period? A glimmer of humanity can reassure the person and keep hope alive. These two ideas belong together. Humanity supports resilience.
Mandela next explains that every person has twin obligations. One obligation is to family, including parents, wife, and children. The other is to one's people, community, and country. In a civil and humane society, a person can fulfill both according to personal inclinations and abilities. But apartheid made this balance almost impossible for a man of Mandela's birth and color.
Why was it impossible? A man of color who tried to live as a human being was punished and isolated. A man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was pulled away from family and home, forced into a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. Twilight existence means a half secret life, like life lived in fading light between sunset and darkness.
Mandela clarifies that he did not initially choose to place his people above his family. While trying to serve his people, he found that the system prevented him from fulfilling his duties as a son, brother, father, and husband. This detail makes his sacrifice personal. He is not presenting himself as naturally detached from family life. He is showing the cost imposed by oppression.
A likely question asks, What twin obligations does Mandela mention? Give a direct opening sentence, name both obligations, and then explain the conflict. A complete answer might say that he owed duties to family and duties to his people and country. But apartheid made it impossible to fulfill both. Support the explanation by mentioning punishment, isolation, and separation from home.
Mandela says he was not born with a hunger to be free. He was born free in the ways he understood as a boy, running in fields, swimming in a stream, roasting mealies under stars, and riding slow moving bulls. As long as he obeyed his father and followed the customs of his tribe, he did not feel troubled by the laws of people or God.
The turning point came when Mandela discovered that his boyhood freedom was an illusion. An illusion is something that appears real but is not. As a student, he wanted transitory freedoms, such as staying out at night, reading what he pleased, and going where he chose. These freedoms were personal and temporary, not yet connected to the condition of his whole community.
Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, his idea became deeper. He wanted the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving his potential, earning his keep, marrying, having a family, and living a lawful life without obstruction. This is an important progression. Freedom moves from childhood movement to personal choice, to the right to live with dignity and fulfill one's potential.
Then Mandela realized that his brothers and sisters were not free either. His freedom was not merely curtailed for him, the freedom of everyone who looked like him was curtailed. That realization changed a personal hunger into a collective hunger. It led him to join the African National Congress and to work for the freedom of his people.
This is the heart of the chapter. Mandela's desire for collective freedom transformed his life. It changed a frightened young man to a bold one, a law abiding attorney into a criminal in the eyes of the unjust system, a family loving husband into a man without a home, and a life loving man into someone living like a monk. The sequence shows the personal price of resisting oppression.
Notice the repeated structure in that description. It is not just a list of changes. Each change shows how the struggle reshaped a different part of his identity. He says he was not more virtuous or self sacrificing than the next person, but he could not enjoy limited personal freedoms while his people remained unfree. His moral awareness made private comfort feel incomplete.
Mandela's statement that freedom is indivisible means freedom cannot be separated into isolated portions. The chains on one person are chains on all, and the chains on all his people are chains on him. This does not mean every person's experience is identical. It means that injustice against one group damages the humanity and freedom of the whole society.
Mandela goes even further. The oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. A person who takes away another person's freedom becomes a prisoner of hatred, prejudice, and narrow mindedness. So the oppressor may possess power, but is not truly free as a human being. Both sides are robbed of their humanity when oppression exists.
Let us check the complete development of freedom. As a boy, Mandela experienced ordinary personal freedom. As a student, he wanted temporary choices. As a young man, he wanted dignified adult freedoms. Finally, he understood that freedom belonged to all his people and joined the collective struggle. A strong answer should show this chronological development rather than mention only the final stage.
We will now enter the language section. The chapter includes useful expressions. Besieged means surrounded closely. Confer means formally give. Deprivation means the state of not having one's rightful benefits. Discrimination means being treated differently or unfavorably. Emancipation means freedom from restriction. These meanings are useful because they also reveal the chapter's political and emotional vocabulary.
Here are more expressions. Not unmindful of the fact means aware of the fact. Pushed to our limits means taken to the last point of our ability to bear suffering. To reassure me and keep me going means to help me continue in hope during a difficult situation. Earning my keep means earning enough to live on. Curtail means reduced. Transitory means not permanent. and prejudice means a strong dislike without a good reason.
Now match two more terms mentally. A profound hurt is a deep and strong hurt. Wrought is a formal, old fashioned word meaning done or achieved. A spectacular array is an impressive display, colorful and attractive. Despised means regarded with a very low opinion. These words can improve an answer, but use them only when their meaning fits. Fancy vocabulary without accuracy can weaken an otherwise good response.
The grammar section asks learners to form nouns from verbs, often using suffixes such as "tieschen" or "meant." Examples from the text include formation from form and government from govern. The source also gives rebel and rebellion, and constitute and constitution. Notice that spelling may change. The useful method is to identify the verb, form its noun, and then check whether the resulting word fits the sentence.
The passage also teaches a special use of the definite article with proper names. Normally, we do not say the Nelson Mandela or Nelson Mandelas. But in the phrase the Oliver Tambos and the Walter Sisselus, the names refer to many people of the same type or kind, including others whose names may be less known. The article and plural form create a special collective meaning.
Mandela's style is marked by balance and contrast. The chapter repeatedly places past against present or present against future. For example, the Union buildings had been the seat of white supremacy, and now they were a rainbow gathering. The generals would once have arrested him, but now they saluted him. Such balanced clauses make the transformation clear and give the writing emphasis.
Look for signal words when answering a question on contrasts. The text uses and now, only moments before, although, not only but, and but. These connectors hold two ideas together and make the change more powerful. In an exam, quote or paraphrase both sides of the contrast. Writing only the present situation misses the historical force of Mandela's description.
Let us practice the first major comprehension question: where did the ceremonies take place? Begin with the exact location in the sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union buildings in Pretoria. If question also asks for an Indian public building made of sandstone, be careful. The chapter asks you to name one, but the source does not provide a specific answer. Do not invent one while revising from this episode.
Another question asks why the 10th of May is called an autumn day in South Africa. The chapter presents that date as an autumn day because South Africa is in the southern hemisphere where the seasons are opposite to those in India. That is a general geographical explanation connected directly to the source's wording, stated briefly and clearly rather than turning the answer into a long description.
Question 3 asks about the extraordinary human disaster and the glorious human achievement. The disaster is the prolonged experience of apartheid, racial domination, oppression, and suffering. The achievement is the establishment of a democratic, non-racial government and the beginning of freedom, justice, peace, and human dignity. Write both meanings together so that your answer shows the complete contrast.
Consider the question about the large number of international leaders at the inauguration. They attended because the event marked a historic transition and a common victory for justice, peace, and human dignity. Their presence showed international recognition of the new South Africa. For a longer answer, connect this with the fact that South Africa had earlier been isolated because of apartheid and was now welcoming the nations of the world.
A high-value question asks whether the depths of oppression create heights of character. Mandela illustrates this through the extraordinary courage, wisdom, generosity, and resilience of the patriots produced during the struggle. Answer carefully. He does not praise oppression itself. He shows that people may develop remarkable character while resisting and surviving oppression. That distinction makes the response academically responsible.
Before we close, try final challenge without looking back. Explain in one connected answer how Mandela's understanding of freedom changed with age and experience, why his hunger for freedom changed his life, and why he says the oppressor must also be liberated. include the words personal, collective, dignity, prejudice, and humanity. If your answer connects these ideas logically, you have understood the chapter.
Let us recap the most important ideas. Mandela's inauguration on the 10th of May 1994 marked the end of more than 3 centuries of white rule and the beginning of democratic non-racial government. The Union buildings changed from a symbol of white supremacy into a rainbow gathering. Mandela honored the sacrifices of earlier patriots, promised justice and dignity, and explained that political emancipation must be followed by freedom from poverty and discrimination.
Remember the three central personal ideas as well. Courage is the triumph over fear, not the absence of fear. Hatred is learned, while love comes more naturally. Freedom is indivisible, so the oppressed and the oppressor are both damaged by prejudice and loss of humanity. Mandela's own freedom grows from childhood independence into a commitment to the dignity and freedom of his entire people.
One common mistake is to write that Mandela's struggle ended when he became president. It did not. The chapter clearly says that poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender discrimination, and other discrimination still had to be addressed. Your concrete next step is to write 2 short answers from memory, one on the twin obligations, and one on the changing meaning of freedom. Then compare them with the chapter and improve the keywords.
You can also turn this into an active recall challenge with Etsy by asking for one doubt at a time and explaining your answer before checking the next hint. Do not aim to memorize every sentence. Aim to explain the journey from apartheid to democracy, from personal freedom to collective freedom, and from fear to courage. That is the conceptual backbone of Nelson Mandela. Long Walk to Freedom.
Thank you for revising with us. Keep the chapter's final spirit with you. Freedom should reign for all people, regardless of background. Revise the timeline, the inauguration setting, the speech's ideals, the sacrifices, the twin obligations, the meaning of courage, and the indivisibility of freedom. Write one clear answer tonight, test yourself again tomorrow, and remember that understanding grows through repeated retrieval. Gaur and Swati will meet you in the next Etsy revision session. Study calmly and keep moving forward.